I am just, I'm really thrilled to have this opportunity today to share this with you, because when I talk about the secret behind the Tellington TTouch, as those of you who know us well, we don't keep secrets, but it's been something I've been looking for, because all these years that we have been sharing TTouch for dogs, for cats, for horses, for humans, for all your bunnies and birds, the question for me is, wait a minute, how is it that with this basic 1 1/4 circles that you can reduce your own pain or fear? What is behind that? And I have been, this has been a long journey. Some of you, I see names that I don't know. Perhaps you're here for the first time, but I have developed a form of communication that has spread around the world. And what came to this concept of this form of communication concept came to be for my 30th birthday in 1967, when I had ordered an astrological chart. It was a reading that was said to be done, one of the first readings by a computer. And in it, it predicted that in my lifetime, I would develop a form of communication that would spread around the world. And in order to do so, I would have to learn to trust my intuition. And it's my first definition of intuition that I found in a book in my husband's library. My first husband went for Tellington. Was unlearned knowledge. And we know now that is the knowledge that is in the quantum field. It's all available to us. And we just have to learn to open and to listen. And the definition that I have come to just love, and I think really represents what's behind this, is that intuition is the realization, the awakening, the manifestation of divine consciousness within you. That is the connection to the creative, all that is. That's within you. And listening to and receiving its messages will change your life. And so I started like really listening in deep ways, and I listen for milestones, and I invite you to listen for those synchronistic events, those things that happen to you. And for me, they come in the form of books. It's just amazing when you look at my book list, which I have kept the years, where the particular books or authors have inspired the development of this work. And of course, one of the biggest inspiration has been my sister Robin Hood, because as I began to develop this concept during my Feldenkrais training at the Humanistic Psychology Institute from 1975 to 78, I began to apply the concept that it's possible to learn in one experience that Moshe Feldenkrais had. This experience by activating unused neural pathways to the brain. And I thought, wait a minute, if that's true for a human, it's got to be true for a horse. And then that was the beginning of looking at learning in horses in new ways. That was the beginning of the development of the labyrinth. And so many of the ways of moving a horse's body was based on that concept. But then one of these synchronistic events that happened to me was a book that we were asked to read during our Feldenkrais training. And it was a book called Man on His Nature by Sir Charles Sherrington. And he was a Nobel Prize recipient. And he wrote this beautiful, very passionate book with the concept that every cell in the body knows its function within the body. And when I read that in 1976, after the first year of my Feldenkrais training, I remember looking at my fingers and saying, wait a minute, when I don't yet know how to do these miracles that we saw Moshe Feldenkrais doing, all I have to do is just allow my fingers, the cells of my fingers, just to send a message to this body to remember your potential for ideal function at the cellular level. This concept that every cell knows its function in the body. And so I carried this through my whole trainings. I carried this concept of looking at people at animals from this collection of cells. And I had an experience that very much affected me, and that was I was working on a horse who'd been fallen on a jump, he'd been hit by a pole on the top of the croup and didn't want to be touched there. And when I just very, very, carefully moved around that area, and the horse was really not trusting me, and I got very gently, this is before the circular TTouches, I just respectfully moved around there. I noticed that the light was different. There was less light in the cells. Now, you have to all understand, I don't see things that, I don't want to see anything that a child cannot see. Well, can do. That is one of the beauties of the techniques of this work that we've developed. And I brought Robin in because as we were finding these things, I was finding it and sharing it with Robin. She said, Linda, you have to logically explain what you're seeing, what you're doing. So that's why we have this method that is so logical to learn. And we have these 9 elements of TTouch, and we have various, like more than 20 parts of the hands that we've given animal names to. The clouded leopard, the raccoon touch, the tiger touch. The reason that these are important to all of us is something that is now recognized in our modern world as the nature deficit syndrome. We don't get out in nature enough. That is, many of you do, because many of you here have dogs, and they bring us out into nature. And when we have our kitties and we have our horses, those animals are our connection to nature. But a lot of people don't have that, and they're stuck inside. And so just the fact that we recognize each time we use a different part of our hand, because they all have, like, we have the chimp, the primate collection of the orangutan, little orang that I worked on in the San Diego Zoo in the 80s, and with TTouch, had an inadequate sucking reflex, and they were losing him. He was 2.5 months old, and just with the basic 1 1/4 circles, I was in 30 minutes, and we have this actually, it's in our library, our Tellington TTouch community library, to see. He was able to take that bottle and suck it down in like, took the whole bottle, which normally it took more than an hour to get him. And then I did the TTouches on his ear and burped him in less than a minute. Now, all of these things that we have developed for the animals, we've also done for people. And the next milestone that was really important is 1983, when I was asked by a veterinarian who owned a mare who they couldn't figure out what was wrong with her, because this was before the time that we had all of the veterinary help that is now available. There was no osteopathy, no known acupuncture at that time. All of the wonderful possibilities now we have for working with animals wasn't there. And they couldn't figure out, why was this horse, 12-year-old thoroughbred mare, so resistant to grooming, to saddling? She would try to bite or kick you. And one of the things I want you all to get, that is a principle of this work that I read in another book, in the Course of Miracles, actually, that aggression comes from a place of fear, and it's a cry for help. This concept, and until then, you all, if a horse bit, I would give it a whack. If it kicked, I'd give it a whack. And if a dog made a move at another, I would very quick punishment. Oh my goodness. When I read that, I was so full of momentary sadness, because when you see that as a place of not understanding of something else, a basic place of fear, then we can handle it differently. And as my brilliant sister Robin Hood says, understanding behavior does not excuse it. So rather than punish for it, what we do is actually show the animal or the person what we want. Now, the next big milestone that was really important to me so anyway, I'm working on this horse. Sorry, I lost my thread here a moment. I was working on this horse and they couldn't figure out why she would bite or kick for grooming, saddling, really unhappy horse. And I put my hands on her with this very gentle, just quiet Feldenkrais work, just giving her a sense of herself. And she got really quiet for me. And her owner said, okay, Linda, like, come on. Oh, are you using some sort of energy or what are you doing? And why is my horse so quiet? And I intuitively said, don't worry what I'm doing. Just go up and move the skin on the shoulder in a circle. It was no circle and a quarter then, it was just the circle. And I thought, okay, because that's not part of what I've been doing. And she went up and just moved the skin, just lightly, in a circle. And the horse got as quiet for her as she was for me. And in that moment, you all, that's when I left the path of, and I've been teaching Feldenkrais for 5 years and for humans and working with horses at this. And I left that path and I started following the circle. And what we found is that anybody could reduce their release pain or fear with these 1 1/4 circles. And I remember an example because we're, in this day now, as we're all, or most of us are still very much locked in, what's happening is we're picking up often on the fear of others around the planet. And the thing that's so interesting is that fear is held in the cells. It's taken in the cells. And this fear in the cells is something that I intuitively got in 1982, just working on a horse. I'm releasing fear at the cellular level, which is an explanation I gave at a big demo. And it just really scared me because in those days, nobody talked about cells like they do now. And I called a friend of mine that night, Dr. Alice DeGroot. She was a veterinarian who was an advisor for Equus magazine. She was the person who also developed the Halti, the head collar for dogs, for those of you in the horse world or human world. And she was a friend of mine. And I said, do you think it's possible, Alice, that cells could hold fear? Because that's what I had said in this statement. And she said, Linda, it's only in the Western world that that's not a known fact. In the world of Chinese medicine, it is known that fear is held in the body. And then Dr. Candace Pert, in her marvelous, groundbreaking book, Molecules of Emotion, with her work at the National Institute of Health, proved that actually our cells in our body hold that fear. And that we feel it in our head through these chemical connections. Now, it's really interesting. Well, I answered a question this morning from a young woman in Romania who rescues dogs. And this dog that she wrote to me about has been really beaten badly. And she shakes at any kind of movement. And so what I'm going to be showing you today and what we're going to be talking about that we learned for humans, you can apply exactly to horses and to dogs and to your kitties and to all of your animals and to yourself. This concept of connecting, and I'm not quite there what you're going to connect with. I won't give it away. So next big milestone that how I know how this, I'm sure how this works now, was an invitation to meet with Dr. Fritz Albert Popp. And if you, P-O-P-P, if you Google him, you will find that he is the founder of the International Institute of Biophysics in Neuss, Germany. And he has been measuring light in the cells, first of plants and then in humans for many, many years. And I went to him and I did 3 circles on his shoulder. And I said that, I told him that experience that I'd had when I saw like less light in the cells of this horse. And when I very gently and got the trust of the horse and worked around the area, and the horse was no longer had pain in that area, the light changed. And Dr. Pop said to me, that was like the big key that I was looking for, the big piece of the puzzle, one big piece. And that is, he said, the light in the cells represents the communication between the cells. And it's like, bingo. All right, this communication, what is this form of communication that will spread around the world, which it has? We're on 6 continents now. And it's that concept, it's communication between the cells. And what we've found, what we've discovered, is that when there's pain or fear, it's as though the light in the cells, that is, the communication between the cells, is inhibited. And my next big like aha came from in 2010 from Dr. Bruce Lipton in his book Spontaneous Evolution, when he talks about the amazing, and again, this intelligence of the cells, you all. We're walking miracles. This 100 trillion cells that communicate in harmony when we're in an ideal state. And the premise of this book, Spontaneous Evolution, from Bruce Lipton, is the concept that if we would just model this harmony in our own bodies when we're in an ideal state, that this could bring peace on the planet. That's the premise. And so I really paid attention to this, but I still didn't know, wait a minute. Now, how is it? Okay, I still want to know, how is it that the 1 1/4 circles what's it connecting to? How is that, how does that work? And so the next piece came thanks to this 2 years now that we have been doing these online courses for TTouch for You for self-help. We've done TTouch for You for years. I mean, I started teaching this for people in the 80s. And one of the things I'm going to give you now to take away from this is what we now call the heart hug. And in it was about 86, I did a week-long retreat for humans in Santa Fe. And a woman came to me during the break and with tears in her eyes. And she said that she'd had these unfounded fears. And she was a hypnotherapist. She had done every kind of body work that you could imagine, trying to get rid of this, and it hadn't worked. Did I think TTouch might help her? And I said, well, I don't know, but just try this. Just put your hands on your chest, which we know here is the heart chakra in the center. And I didn't say that, I just put on your chest and just move the skin in this. No, by then we knew it was already a circle and a quarter. We'd gotten that it wasn't enough to do a circle. You actually, by then it was just a circle and a little more still. It wasn't quite the circle and a quarter. So at the lunch break, she went out and she did this, and she came back to me, and that's actually when she had the tears in her eyes. And she said for the first time, she felt that she was without fear. These unfounded fears were gone. Now, what we've discovered is the basic heart hug. And some of you have been teaching this in your classes. I know Marianne Wilkins has been doing it for years. Of course, Lindy and all of those of you Sandra, all who teach TTouch. I'm sure Julie does this basic 1 1/4 circle. Now, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, you imagine the face of a clock. Now, the reason we imagine the face of a clock is when you put imaginary numbers on that face of that clock, like take it off the school wall. I think you all Phil had those. And put it here on your chest. You're looking from the outside in. 6 is toward the ground. Logical. 9 to the right shoulder, 12. And as I say these numbers, 12, chin, 3, left shoulder. Why is that important? Because the numbers and the method activate your logical brain, your left brain. And the reason that unfounded fears, or these looping thoughts that we all have a tendency to get that you can't stop. When we bring in the logic, okay, clock, numbers, and then we imagine the face of the clock. Anything to do with imagination activates the right brain. So we've got the left brain. Suddenly we're logically, hey, how are we doing this? Okay, now, when anything we imagine activates our right brain. And when we just cup your hand, just slightly, instead of flattening it, if you flatten it, try flattening your fingers. And you see, it's not very comfortable, is it? You can feel the tightness in those fingers. Some of you may feel actually a little stuff in your joints. So just lightly curve your hand. And we actually call that, I named that the Abelone touch, because abalones like stick to the rocks and they have this muscle under here. So it's like, and the middle of the hand will not be touching usually in this spot. So you just, from 6 o'clock, just take the tissue now, and we'll go first clockwise, just from the 6 up to 9, 12, 3, 6, 9. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through pursed lips. Now, for those of you who don't know why we're doing this, let me tell you what we have discovered when we're in those looping thoughts or we're in a place of fear. It's the limbic system that is in control. The sympathetic nervous system, that fight, flight, freeze, faint, in horses or dogs, it's fool around. No, that's true. When we move the tissue in this logical 1 1/4 ways, in whatever direction you prefer, it's your choice. Start at 6, catch the tissue, 1 circle and 1/4. Stop at 9. Let's do it the other direction. Feel how that goes. From 6 up to 3, your left shoulder, up to your chin, right shoulder, down and back up. Stop at left. Now it's 1 1/4 and pause, stop there. Now, what's really interesting, when we do this, just 2 or 3 times, what we just have discovered is that you can stop those looping thoughts and you can stay present. And what it does, it puts you in heart coherence, in the state of the parasympathetic rest and recovery. And Heart Math Institute, if you don't know Heart Math Institute, Google them right after this, because they have every week, they have wonderful presentations from leading visionaries from around the planet. And they've done this wonderful work showing, and they do it with breathing and freeze frame. They do it with breathing and gratitude. We add the circle and 1/4. Because you can be in a deep state of panic, and just by moving that tissue and adding the smile, moving the tissue, adding the smile activates our feel-good hormone, serotonin. And moving, the gentle movement of the tissue activates the oxytocin, the trust hormone. So we begin to trust our body. And it just 1 1/4 circles. Now, if for some reason it's not comfortable for you on your chest, you can do this on your belly too. Because of this amazing vagus system tree that comes up from belly and connects all of this stuff, which is, now we understand why our ear TTouch works and why this stuff that we do on the body has such a profound effect. I want you to know about something that Eleanor Silverstein, who is one of my partners in this online course, Sandy and Eleanor, We've been doing this together for 2 years, teaching humans self-help online. And she found something that you all should be interested in. It's now called the skin hunger deficit. Skin hunger. Because we're locked in, we don't, so many people are alone. If you have a dog, you're really lucky. Kitties don't allow, well, my kitties did allow cuddling, but some don't. But just something to get this skin connection. Now, the beautiful thing is you can do it yourself. You can honor yourself and move this tissue in 1 1/4 circles. And we do this body blessing where you go down the whole body and do this. There's one piece missing, and that's the piece de resistance. And it's what gave me this final knowing, wait a minute, how is it, answering this question, how is it that we can reduce pain and fear at the cellular level? And it came in the form, again, of a book called The Code of Authentic Living, Cellular Wisdom. That's what I was missing. And it's by Joan King. And she had her PhD in neuroscience and psychology, and taught at Tufts School of Medicine for 20 years. And then one day, she read a legend that changed her life. She left the teaching as a professor and started life coaching. And in this book, the first sentence in chapter 1 is, every cell is a genius. And why does she say that? Just as she qualifies it with a legend. And when she read this legend, that's what caused her to leave the university and start being a life coach. She's now crossed the rainbow bridge, but I feel her, the legacy she has left behind is amazing. Joan King. The legend goes like this. Once upon a time, it's a Hindu legend. Once upon a time on this planet, before we can even imagine, every human being had the power of a god. They could create anything. They could do anything. And then humankind, began to abuse that power. And so the head Brahman, decided the power had to be taken away. And so we had this big powwow, called everybody together, not everybody, a lot of people with, a lot of beings with, good thinking. And they said, okay, we're going to hide this. Where can we hide it? And one of them said, I know, no problem. We'll go to the highest mountain and on the planet, and we'll leave it there and they won't find it. And Brahman said, no, of course, humankind is very resourceful. They'll find it. Okay, others said, we'll go to the deepest part of the ocean. We'll bury it there. They'll never find it. Yes, Brahman said, they will find it. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, another one said, I know, we'll find the deepest cave on the whole planet. Dig deeper, hide it there. No, this resourcefulness of humankind will find it. And then Brahma said, I know where we'll hide it. We'll hide it inside. And humankind will never think to look there. And so ever since, humankind has been running around, climbing in the mountains, going in the deep, digging in the earth, always looking for this ability, this connection, this creative connection to all that is. And it's inside. And this, when I read that legend, I knew this was the piece, because my interest is in the merging of science behind all of this and spirituality. And that's what this does. And so just remembering that legend, and what I wanted to know, wait a minute, okay, that's interesting. The Brahman legend, this Hindu legend, but I bet you it's in the Bible. I remembered something about it, and I called a friend, Sage Lewis, and her husband, James, knows the Bible really well. And in the King James Version, chapter 17 in Luke, lines 20 and 21. The power of God is within you and without. And that is different when we apply these 1 1/4 circles now. And what I also discovered, now again, this wonderful discovery, a 15-year-old young savant, a young man in the autism spectrum, brilliant, came into one of the classes in Germany for humans and said, this 1 1/4 basic circle, that's the golden ratio. That's the golden ratio. I always can never say it. It's I wrote it down because I always have trouble. Fibonacci spiral. It's the spiral that is in all of nature. It's this golden ratio. And when the spiral happens naturally, because each new cell is formed after a turn. And the fact is, this is totally natural, this 1 1/4 circle. It's in all of nature. So that's my story. And I'm here in Hawaii and I talk story. Now, I want to bring you on and know that on your own body, just find a place, well, we're talking here, a place where either you've had old pain or old scarring, or a part that you don't like of yourself. And what I learned 15 years ago from Heart Math Institute, from the director, Roland McCready, wrote that when we address our own bodies in a negative way, this affects negatively our immune system. And when I read that, well, I can remember where I was sitting in this house when I read that report, and I thought, oh no, because I used to say all the time, oh Linda, that was really stupid. And I think I've only done that maybe twice and caught myself instantly ever since that. So what we do in our online courses, we find those areas that we don't like, or areas where you cannot touch because of old scarring, and the cells say, no, don't go there. And we talk to the cells and we gain a form of trust in this way. And it's the second T, many of you will not know this. Why is it Tellington TTouch? The second T in TTouch stands for trust. Trust. And we talk to our bodies as though they are intelligent, which they are. Every cell is a genius, as Joan King writes. As Sir Charles Sherrington, every cell in the body knows its function within the body. And Bruce Lipton in his beautiful book. This is proven scientifically. And we have found that the link is this spiral, this 1 1/4 spiral. Now the pause is really important. And for those of you who are in our Tellington TTouch community, we have this community where like almost every weekend we have another lecture. And recently, my sister Robin interviewed Sally Morgan, talking about the effects of the ear TTouch and the tail TTouch on our animals, and how that affects the cranial sacral still point. That point, that total stillness where the body is in perfect harmony, working in perfect harmony. And that's what the mindful pause does between the TTouches. And it's not that we pause and think, oh, okay, wait a minute, what am I going to have for dinner? No, it's the honor of the pause and staying present. And when you know that you're staying present with that source energy, something special happens. And I want to read you on page 14. I just love this quote from Joan King on page 14, the code for authentic living, cellular wisdom. When we open ourselves to source energy, when we recognize source energy, what else? Now, come on, just sit back and think, how else can we be here and we're breathing, the blood is flowing, the lymph is going, all this stuff is working. What do we have to do with it? Nothing. It's source. It's creative source in all it is. So when we open to that source energy, page 14, Joan King writes, we connect with cellular wisdom, for source energy is our link to the creative energies of the universe. Yes, to the creative energies of the universe. And that is what is the secret that is now disclosed finally to me after all these years of wondering, how is that possible that every one of you can release that pain or fear? Now, I want to just address two more things, and then I'm going to start bringing on our guests. The fear that we feel permeates everything because it's all in the quantum field. And one of the books I love is Spontaneous Healing of Belief by Greg Braden, where he writes, what is energy? We all talk about we're going to move the energy, we're doing the energy thing, right? Energy is every thought we have, every feeling we have, every emotion we have, and every belief we have. Now, all that fear is out there in the quantum field. It is also within you. And this is something that I have seen in past life regressions at the Light Institute in Galisteo with Chris Griscom, where I've done many regressions. And one of these regressions, I saw that every one of us has in every cell in our body all of the experience of all of the negative emotions of every person on the planet. That's just what makes us human. And we have a choice, you all, of knowing that may not be our fear. And knowing that that link, that 1 1/4 spiral circle with a breath and a pause and a smile, that we can release some of that fear. And when we release it in ourselves, in our animals, and many of you are here also for your animals, when we release it in our animals, we are, releasing that to the knowing for all beings that goes out there as a infinite possibility. That's the code word for quantum science, the infinite possibility for change. Now, I would like to bring in just a couple of the people I've invited on here today, and then I'd like to open it to questions. And I can't see, Chanel, I saw you before. If you could unmute yourself, you had such a beautiful story with your daughter. Let's see, let's put you on, how do we do this? Let's see, Robin, we put her on speaker view, right? There you are. And Chanel has been with us, for all these years with our TTouch for You online. And oh, by the way, I got your painting. I haven't opened it yet. It had to wait because we wait for 24 hours. So tell us your experience with TTouch and your daughter, Chanel.
Okay, well, since joining the classes online for TTouch, I've been learning a lot of techniques to access this cellular knowledge. And my daughter she couldn't go to the dentist at all because she was so anxious about it, had extreme anxiety. And so the dentist booked her in for a dental surgery to take care of a couple of issues in her mouth. So I was very nervous taking her in because she doesn't handle going to the doctor, dentist, anything. It's just complete paranoid. So
how old is she?
We went up. She's 10 years old, and this has been going on every year since she was 3 or 4 years old. So I don't know why, because she's never really had a bad experience with doctors. So I I took her to the dentist, and we were going up the elevator, and she started saying, "What's going to happen? What's going to happen?" I said, "It's going to be okay. Remember, it's the children's dentist. Everything's going to be fine." And the nurse was super nice, and she was a children's dental nurse. So we went upstairs, and then she put some medicine on her hand because they were going to put an IV in. And she started getting a little bit nervous because the medicine on her hand was really cold. So I said, "Oh, I know how to warm it up. Let's do some TTouch." And I went like this on her hand with just little Abelone TTouches.
Can you show us? Just bring your hand up so they can
A
see
little
you.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just connected with my thumb, and, you know, a little bit faster pace, and did some TTouches on her hand. And she said, "Okay, that's good, Mom." And so I stopped. And then the nurse came back and said, "Oh, how's her hand doing?" And I said, "Oh, her hand's doing fine, but she is hungry because she hasn't eaten since midnight the night before." And so I did some TTouch on her stomach, and I just went like you showed me in the, you know, up and around under the ribs, doing a TTouch here, and then up through the belly button towards the top and round, and her hunger pains actually diminished. So then the nurse came back and she says, "Okay, we're going to put an IV in." And she does this hyperventilating. "What's going to happen, Mommy?" And I said, "Amber," and I instinctively just grabbed her mouth like this. And I started doing TTouches around her mouth like this. And her face went from this to right away to this. And she relaxed immediately. And I just did these circle and a quarter around her mouth like this, and with like maybe a 3 or 4 pressure. And I'm not joking, she calmed down, and she actually said, "Oh, Mommy, I'm getting tired." Because, you know, when I'm doing the TTouch, it stimulates serotonin and the oxytocin. And she actually almost fell asleep. She had to lie down. She became that relaxed. And this was remarkable because you would know that this is a miracle because of how she reacted before. And I was so surprised and happy. When they brought her into the room to prepare her for surgery, they actually put I got to stand behind her head, and they put the IV in. And I just said, "Amber, take a deep breath." And I had my hands on the side of her head, and I started doing these TTouch right underneath her eye and the side of her head like this, just because I almost felt embarrassed of other people looking at me like, "Oh, what is she doing?" So I didn't really want to make it noticeable or anything. So I just snuck my hands around her, and I started doing this, and a little bit faster, and they put the IV in, and she took a breath. She did not panic at all, didn't even notice the IV going in, and then all of a sudden she closed her eyes and she was asleep. And that's when I started doing heart hugs, because I felt like, oh my gosh, that was terrifying.
Beautiful.
But she didn't
Chanel.
even notice.
Yeah. I mean, that's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Did you do the ear TTouch when she came out of anesthesia?
I didn't get to spend much time with her when she came out because her dad came in right away to pick her up.
Yeah. Yeah,
but I don't think I did. But you did mention that to me to do that, try it next time, and so I will. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you. And the thing is that all of the things, the mouth TTouch, for all around your mouth. This connects directly with the emotional centers of our brain. Think about it. It's natural. If something happens, we do that, right? And everything is connected around this mouth. And we can make such a difference in calming ourselves or our animals with the same thing around the mouth. This wonderful possibilities of connection. Chanel, thank you so much. I'll call you after I open your painting later today. Great, thank you. So let's see if we can go back to
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome, thanks. Where are you right now? Chanel, where are you?
I'm on the way to 100 Mile. I'm in Kamloops, BC right now, and I'm gonna go see my horse today. I haven't seen him in about 3 months, so, or
Great.
longer. So I'm like excited.
Okay. Thanks. Say hi.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. So we'll go back to our gallery view, and let's see. I saw Donna Chagru, and I've asked Donna to come on. If you can unmute yourself. There you are, Donna.
Yes,
Hi.
I did.
Hi. And
Thank
I just want
you
to
very much.
introduce.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. I want to introduce you a moment, Donna, because Donna heard about our program because of 9/11. I think you were right at ground zero, correct?
That's right. I was in lockdown, and I was sick of watching my building being used as a morgue and all the towers crumbling down. And so cruising through, I saw Robert Stack's show, It's a Mystery.
Oh, Unsolved
And I
Mysteries.
saw you working with the tigers, and I swear to God, you probably had to pry my face off the screen of the TV. I was so fascinated because I love tigers and lions. And I waited for the credits, and I wrote down TTouch, and immediately went to the internet and found it, followed it for 2 years, and there was going to be a hurricane going up the East Coast when I was scheduled to go home. So I called my travel agent, and there was a beginning course in Las Vegas, and we changed my flight. And that was the start of my new life.
Well, the thing that's so interesting, you were very successful with dogs and companion animals for many years. And then you had began to have an issue with your own body. Yes. And we've been having the pleasure of, having you on these courses for the last couple of years. And could you just give like one example how TTouch has helped you? Maybe the last one that we did from the last class.
I'd be glad to. Just for a little background for those of you who are new, in 2016, I was struck by an advanced case of MS. It was the secondary progressive. I had been told in the 70s I might have it, but there were no tests or anything. And I had had severe nerve damage and microsurgery to put nerves and tendons together. So I thought everything was related to that, ignored it, and then got whacked in 2016. And it was I couldn't even get to the kitchen to get a cup of coffee. I was lucky I made it to the bathroom. I was totally non-functional. And because of that, I saw Linda was giving the first class. I believe it was an immersion class in 2018, because in 2017, for the first time, I was hit by excruciating chronic pain. And my neurologist said to me, when I call crying and hysterical from the pain, what do you expect me to do about it? And so I then started taking Linda's class. And prior to that, I didn't have the use of my hands, so I never thought of TTouch for me. But during the class, I learned techniques that made it very easy to do. I have to divert a little bit to say that I also used wraps that were phenomenal. I used the hip wrap, and my spasticity went away, and my partner Jim said to me, "My God, you're walking normally." And I used a head wrap that I constructed by reading my MRIs, because my neurologist didn't want to take the time to show me where the lesions were. He just said, "Oh, they're in your brain." And see, I believe in remote TTouch. So I figured I could TTouch my brain, the lesions. And so I looked them up and I created a head wrap. And actually, in our last class with Robin Hood, I have to say thank you to Susan Davis, who came on with the same configuration for vertigo. It was wonderful. And using my head wrap, I was having difficulty. I couldn't see. I was blurred seeing. My vision would come back immediately. And I was able to go back. I was able to start going to my MS support meetings, which I had been trying to do for a year, but I couldn't even get out of the house. I couldn't drive. I could barely walk, and other various issues. Like I said, use my hands. And through the courses, I learned touches like the slug, the banana slug was wonderful.
Along the side here, like that.
It was just wonderful. And then the other one, I believe a long time ago, Linda, you told me they called it the owl, but I think there's a different name now for it. That was just incredible. I had a horrible fall in downtown Boston, split open my forehead, broke my left hand, broke my right wrist.
That was recent, right? That was recently.
Yes, and when I went into Mass General Hospital, the admitting people said to me, "What's the other person look like?" And I was on the way to meet with my senator to talk about stopping war. And I was bleeding like crazy, and the ambulance wanted to take me, and I said, "No, I'm gonna go stop you from having to go to war." And I went to the meeting, and afterwards I went to the hospital. And then
you were as tough as an owl.
Well, you know, I joined the Friends. You know, the Quakers have a national lobbying group at the Senate in Washington, and I joined them. And I've always been politically active in civil rights. I was a history major, and I'm a strict constitutionalist. And I have a very hard time right now watching our politicians use our
Well, let's not go there now. We want to stay on TTouch right now.
I was told to have a story to be memorable. And I figured bleeding all over his office, he'd remember me. And so, and so then I believe it was 2 weeks ago, Linda, you showed a movement.
Yes, like this.
Yeah, it was in the back. It was the first time we used two hands. I held one hand with the other, and because of that, I was able to get my hand with the broken wrist and the other one with the broken hand
Can you
back
see
to
it?
no problem and no pain. And I was able to do the T-Touch, and I was pain-free. And they've had me on a million drugs, and to try to stop the pain, and none of them work. And the only thing that has worked to seriously eliminate the pain totally is the wraps and the T-Touch. And I can tell you that I slept through the night last night. I woke up pain-free. I am still pain-free. My sister-in-law died, from various cancers and the COVID. So I had her opioids, and I don't even bother with them because T-Touch works better than an opioid for pain.
So, Donna, thank you so much for this. I'm so grateful, and could you see what I was doing? And Robin, maybe if you could hold up the book, your book that you did with Mandy, to show that, because Donna was saying, she couldn't reach the pain in her back, and that's why she was trying to do it with one hand, and by holding one hand and moving your one hand with the other, she could reach those areas. And that's when we used a little different, use whatever part of the hand you could reach with.
And that actually, it had been 8 years of chronic pain, 24/7. And until I did that, I was never pain-free. And I am pain-free now. What time is it? It's 3 o'clock my time. I didn't even wake up in the middle of the night to do T-Touch. I went to sleep probably at 11. And
Donna, thank you so much. I so appreciate you, and you're looking so wonderful. Thank you. And I'm going to try to get in a couple more people. And what is Donna is saying? It's the miracle of connecting with that amazing source energy within every cell in our body. And it's like this spiral circle is the link. And when the thing that's so beautiful about this work, you don't need to know any of this. A child can do this without knowing any of this. But the fact is, when you do, something happens. Something happens when we recognize that, wait a minute, this body, we consider this a body, and everybody has things they don't like about the body. When we start recognizing it as a vessel for our soul, and we know that we can help those parts that create fear or dislike in us, or great pain, and we can do something about it. Donna, thank you. Robin, I'm hoping, can you hold up your book for us?
No, I didn't bring, just a second.
Okay, while you're doing that, I want to see, did Eleanor Silverstein get on? She had a wonderful.
The webinar we did do last week, though, Linda, it's on Vimeo and on YouTube. We did this with Ross.
Can you tell them about that? Or we can let Ross do it at the end.
Yeah, if we just get the link, that people could be sent the link for it, I think. So
right. Okay,
I think that would be, so can I ask you a question? Somebody had asked, are you going to show any more touches this time or not? That was a question that someone had, that they were like, go through anything else, touch-wise.
Yes, we are going to.
Okay.
But think what we've already showed you.
Okay, it was just a question from someone, and there's another question that someone emailed you, so.
Well, go ahead and ask, because you want to ask. We'll just take this moment to ask. The thing is,
it was just an email about a dog, but it's okay. I could just answer her.
I did.
Oh, okay.
and you can answer too. The thing is, for those of you who have dogs, this is a dog that had a great deal of fear, was really dealing with fear. And all of these things, this basic 1 1/4 circle, the thing that's so beautiful about it, you do your 1 1/4 circles with the pauses in between. And you first start on the part of your body that you like. Or if you're dealing with a stroke, you start with the part that you can feel. And you just, it's a basic 1 1/4 circle. And we have like 20 different parts of the hand you use. How do we get there? By the banana slug, for instance, came about. I'm trying to get back to speaker view. Can you see me now speaking? Can you see me, or is it a small picture?
No, we can see you, Linda.
Okay, because I'm just seeing everybody, so I can't tell for sure if what, now I can no longer see my hand if I'm holding it up enough. This concept of these 1 1/4 circles, you just cannot believe, you know, that will make a difference. And the fact is, you don't have to believe it. Just do it. Well, and if you have just the basic, like there's 1 1/4, and the principle is I normally start with the part toward the ground. That's where my 6 o'clock is on the clock. And you can use whatever part of your hand that is easy for you to use to make the circle 1/4. The banana slug, the idea that you would use this soft part, you see here, this soft part, and it's only soft if I curve my fingers, because look, if I straighten my fingers, that's hard. But I make this soft, and I just move the tissue with this. And it came because someone in my class at the center in Oregon, at the Humane Center Society Center in Oregon, said, oh, her fingers were so stiff from working on the computer, so it was painful. She couldn't use the pads of the fingers, the clouded leopard. And so I said, oh, well, what about this? Just turn your hand up and use this soft part. And as long as you get that 1 1/4 circles, you can do it with any part of your body, which is really beautiful. So I would like to just hear, let's have Jewel do, because Jewel is another person who has been doing TTouch successfully with companion animals for many, many years, and had attempted to help her knee pain, because she can't have knee surgery because she's alone and has no one to care for her after the knee replacement. So she was attempting to work with TTouch, but it wasn't working. And then I guided her in a different way. So if we could just have you, Jewel, come on, and then I'll take the raised hand of, maybe Robin, you can look for questions from the raised hands. Jewel, where are you?
I don't know where I am on your screen, but I've unmuted.
Perfect.
Can you hear me? Great.
Yeah.
As Linda said, I'd had trouble actually with both knees. One knee for a very long time. One knee I twisted very badly in November, and I had tried to work and really had not had anything that was successful in a really meaningful way. And Linda showed me this just very simple way of evaluating the area around my knee. Specifically for me, it was underneath the kneecap and like a half circle around my leg, and to see where was the most sensitive spot, and then to see if pain radiated from that down. And in my case, it did. And I would do circles 1/4. I do several different types of touches on it. And I do the pause and then go back to 6 most of the time. I did that for about a week. And well, really within the next day, I could tell there was a difference. And that was with both knees. I actually kept a record so that I would have a very tangible way of knowing what was helping. And with the sensitive spot would move on both legs. At one point, the currently injured knee actually had two that were equally sensitive, and I would work down on both of those. The length that went down my leg shortened, and I'm talking about within a week. That
You
was
mean like less area of pain?
Yes. Yes, there was less area. I would only go down. At first, I was going 6 to 8 inches down my leg, working that line of pain. And now I'm doing it actually right now.
And can you just describe what it, because they don't know what working means.
For me, I was actually using 1 or 2 fingers and going in a circle and a quarter. Now I'm going in pretty deep because I feel that the pain is very deep. And then I will do different types of touches on it and work around actually my whole knee after I've done those particular lines of pain. I usually finish with something we call the tarantula, going from the top of my knee down all the way down as far as I can reach.
Right. It looks like that.
Yep. And I'll use both hands with that. It has been really great. And one of the best parts about it is that besides the fact that my right knee, which I've had trouble with for most of my life, is almost pain-free. The left knee is running at about 65% less pain, but the best part about it is I can do a lot more on my feet, and there's a lot less recovery time. I'm still not dealing with it days later if I overdo it. So it's been great, a great help.
So someone's asking how many times a day you do this and for how many minutes.
Okay, the first week the very first day I did it maybe 3 times.
And for how long?
Maybe 4 or 5 minutes on each knee.
Yeah.
At the next few days, I did it once a day, 4 or 5 minutes each knee. After the first week, I'm really just kind of doing it when I think about it, usually once a day. I'm trying to remember to do it before I stand up because my knees still do get stiff, but they're not nearly as stiff. I'm bone on bone, in case anybody's interested and knows what that means. Both knees are bone on bone. And that burning, searing pain that I used to get, I haven't had since we started this, which about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So thank you. And what I'd like to do is tell you, because there are questions here coming up about, what about the course that we're offering. And so I'd like to talk about that. And for those of you who have to go, there is a book. In English, the book is
TTouch for Healthcare.
Yeah.
And it comes with a 60-minute DVD. If you still have a DVD player.
Robin, I have it right. Oh.
Oh, good. Now, and also for those of you who are interested, we have a library with all of these videos in there. And I wonder, Ross, if you could hold up that piece that I made last night that I wrote that tells you about this course, or maybe actually we'll just tell you about the course. If you're interested, you can go to, we should write it in the chat, ttouchforyouonline.com/cellular wisdom. And we're just ending a 9-month program. And if you sign up, the next one starts in July. And if you sign up this weekend, we're going to give you you'll get 3 sessions with me. And they're listed as Tuesday live with Linda, 2 hours, but so far they've not been under 4 hours because I simply stay with the questions that people have. And that's how I guided Jewel through. You see, what you want to do, you go to the level with the pressure and you learn the pressures, and you go to the pressure that where you can feel, it's painful, and then you back off a little, unless your body wants that, because there's sometimes when you're dealing with joint pain, so if it's not inflamed, but it's just like, we do a lot with this amazing TTouch on these, our thin fingers that are really stiff and painful. And when you start talking to that cellular wisdom, that source energy, consciousness in every cell, something different happens. Like pain goes away. So if you sign up this by Sunday night, I'm going to give you 3 more of these sessions. It's live with Linda. And on the teachings that we do, and now Eleanor Silverstein is here. Eleanor and Sandy Rakowitz and I have been collaborating now for 2 years on these trainings. The first was a 90-day immersion class, The next one was a 6-month co-creating the world you crave, heaven on earth, 6 months. And now we've been doing 9 months. We finished last Sunday, the 9th month, but now I have 3 more that you get to come on and ask any questions. And I guide, everybody does these touches. Like when I was hoping that what I'm going to do is stay on for those of you who want. I want to see if we still have Teresa Cottarelli, because look, this is what I did last week. And Teresa was able to, she didn't bring her foot up this way. I'm just bringing it so you can see. She was able to release the pain that she'd had for 20 years in her feet, just by us sharing on this. The same thing with Donna, being able to reach behind her. Everybody does that. So it's just addressing what are the questions you have about the work. And what Eleanor and Sandy and I do on this once a month is bring in just wonderful opportunities to learn this TTouch in all aspects of honoring, of realizing that we're miracles through the gateway of TTouch. And Eleanor, I would love if you, well, actually, I'll answer Amy's question, Gattinger first, and then I'd love you to tell the story that I wanted you to tell today. So Amy, if you want to come on, you have a question. Would you like to, and by the way, before you go, I know some, because we don't like to go over because some of you have a lot of other things to do, but do know that we have this new possibility online with this wonderful course that Mandy and Robin has put together for companion animals, and a horse one is coming, and you can join us, sign up this weekend for TTouch for You online, and you'll get these 3 extra, probably going to be an extra 12 hours of learning exactly how you do these TTouches. And join us in the community. You'll see how to sign up for that, which we'll send out with the replay of this. So, Amy, let's ask your question, and then I'm going to have Eleanor tell an amazing one of these simple stories, how she helped somebody online with a real big problem. Amy, can you, Gattinger,
yeah.
can you
hear me?
Yes, now we've got you. Hi.
Okay. I want to know if, so what's the sequence? The sequence is the circle and a quarter and a smile with it?
For the heart hug.
For the heart hug. Okay.
Yes.
You don't have to do the smile with the other ones?
The thing is, the reason that we do the smile, when the heart hug is when you have these looping thoughts that you can't stop, or you're panicked, or you're having a case of of panic attacks. That's what Eleanor's going to be talking about,
Okay.
because you can stop it. And the thing is, of course, the smile helps anytime, but you don't have to actually smile. If you, what I do when I'm doing each TTouch, Amy, I have come to the place of wonder. It's like, it's a wow, I get to connect with this remarkable wisdom in every cell in our body. How is that our bodies know how to function in this way, that the cells know, and that just connecting with a place of wonder. And the great thing, Amy, you don't have to do that. Just apply and the TTouches, and you go to the pressure that says whatever that is, and then you back off a little bit.
What about the breathing? Do you need to breathe between, or you just keep working?
The thing is, one of the 9 elements is being aware consciously of our breath. Because like if I've hurt myself, like I broke my wrist here, right? So I'm doing these really fast circles. So of course I am not going to be breathing every time. So I pay attention to my breathing. So I breathe in through my nose and out through pursed lips, but that takes practice. So it's a practice that we do. And then say I'm doing the heart hug, like, well, it's so you can get like oxygen, like. And when I did this last week in the Tuesdays with Linda, I forget, somebody who'd been doing this for years suddenly got, this in through the nose and out through pursed lips. And one of the things that we do is this really deepening your breathing through moving your own ribs and breathing all over. And one of our Feldenkrais practitioners who joined me after the Feldenkrais Summit, where I spoke last month, said she does yoga breathing and Feldenkrais for years. And this is the deepest she had ever experienced. And I asked her, well, how is that? Why? And she said, because I'm putting my hands on myself in a loving way.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. One more. I have gastritis. How do you rub your stomach? Is there a way, or very gently, or?
So what is that?
Inflammation of the stomach.
And are you dealing it with food and nutrition and so forth? And
mostly, yes. But I am noticing I'm rubbing here on myself and I'm getting little gurgles. So it's like, hello.
So let me show you, if you can see. So you're lying down. I start right here, just you can feel the inside of the hip bone. Oops, and I start here, and if I'm lying down, I'll do a circle and a quarter and go inward to whatever level is comfortable. And if you've got inflammation, which I've had also, it hurts. So I do a little bit less. And then I come up here and I follow this all around and go straight down this side. Don't make a circle. Don't go across. Don't confuse the wonderful way here. It's like that. And I do all kinds of different ways of holding my hands to go in. The first time when I had inflammation a few months ago, it was really sensitive. So I go to where, and then do a little bit less, because you don't want to hurt yourself, but you do want to go deep enough that you take yourself seriously. So I can reduce that, and I can work with it in a kind way, and change that. Now, always understand, what we do with TTouch is never a replacement for all of the importance of the nutrition and all the stuff that we do. It's never a replacement for medical help. But as you can hear, when you can't get any other help, you've got your hands. And
exactly.
You've got your hands. So I invite you to join us in these courses. You will be amazed.
Do you have something every week? Do you have a meeting every week? like this?
Yes,
Or
every Tuesday now. It's brand new. I only started it, I think it's 5 weeks ago. Before that, we had once a month, and we always still have once a month when we're doing a teaching with Eleanor and Sandy and I. And then Tuesdays with me, it's open to everybody in those courses.
oh, so you have to be in a course?
You have to enroll in the Tellington on the TTouchForYouOnline.com/cellular wisdom. If you go there, and what we're offering, if you sign up this weekend for it, because it starts in July, you can start next Tuesday and be in on Tuesday. And I stay on sometimes 5 hours the last time until everybody has their questions answered.
So
And if you
that's
can
called-
only stay on, it's Tellington TTouch. Excuse me, leave off the Tellington. Can someone write this in the chat, please, and you can just
It is,
copy
it's
it from
written, the
chat.
link is,
It's
the link is in the chat.
Amy.
Great,
can go
thank
there.
you. Thank you.
Now, I'd just like to know if there's anybody who has to go and you have a big question right now that you'd like me to answer related to this, I'll answer it, because then I'm going to stay on. And I think what we should do is maybe, I don't know, I usually stop the recording and then start new, because you get these recordings, so you don't have to listen so long.
Linda, did you want me to just do a quick piece on what happened recently, or do you want to keep going with the questions?
I'd like to see if there's anyone who has to leave. I will take one more question and then we'll go on with, or do you probably have to leave, Eleanor? Let's do you, because oh my God, I'm sorry, you have to leave.
I'm just going to tell you, Linda, I have to leave too. So just so I won't be there for the questions. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you Robin, thanks a lot for being here.
And I can help you, Linda, when Robin drops off.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So you're welcome. I'll just stay on now. And, you know, I'm going to have you speak, Eleanor, and then I'm going to stop the recording and then start it again.
Okay.
And we can answer your questions here. So, Eleanor.
So actually, I would love to just, before I tell the story, I would love to say a little bit of what's behind the, as a scientist or in neurophysiology, to explain to you another degree of the importance of inhaling through the nose and out through pursed lips. Is that okay?
Oh, thank
Great.
you. Of course.
Because I love logic. I love logic as much as I tend to be on the right side more dominant, but the logic part is with the science. So in your nasal passages, we are loaded with nitric oxide receptor sites, not nitrous oxide, which is laughing gas, but nitric oxide receptor sites. And when we inhale through our nose, we stimulate those nitric oxide receptor sites and we fill them with nitric oxide. And the role of nitric oxide is to vasodilate. It opens up the blood vessels and it begins the creating of regulating the heart rate and the heart rhythm. So the heart coherence people would love that. And it'll help to lower our blood pressure if it's too high. If some of us who have low blood pressure, it brings it up. So it really regulates it in a beautiful way. When we exhale through pursed lips, because people would ask, well, what if I go, I go, well, that's one thing. But when we do it through pursed lips, it creates a little bit of a back pressure into the diaphragm. And these are the things that you'll learn in our online courses, the anatomy of what happens in all the places where the vagus nerve goes. And the vagus nerve is very richly innervated in the diaphragm. So when we exhale through pursed lips, as simple as that is, we create a little bit of a back pressure that stimulates that intensive musculature that's innervated by the richness of that nerve system, which goes back to the brain and says, don't you feel better now? Which is a really good thing. So then we add in we're doing, and that's in association with the heart hug. So there's many things and reasons why. And then of course it's connecting into that divine and universal consciousness and awareness and that. So, and then we give it to us and we pass it on to those with others. So Linda, hey, what you created that is so simple. And I'm always like, oh, I know what that is. Oh, the headbands, I know what's going on there. Oh, oh, wow, brilliant, brilliant genius. And that every child can learn to do this. I just come in from the other side with like, I get it, you know, on the science.
And that's what you get on the Sundays, that we bring in all of this science with the techniques. That's what's so great. And on Tuesdays with me, you get to actually work on yourself with these different and really get the nuances of the TTouches.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you had a great story that we wanted to share.
Yes. So I am working with a family down on the Pacific side, all the way down in the south part of Mexico. And a baby was born, the cord was around her neck. She suffered very low oxygen levels. So even though, and the labor and delivery and birthing process took a couple of days. So she really didn't get enough oxygen, even though at the moment she was born, they were giving her CPR and giving her oxygen. The thing is there was a whole lot of time. So she looks like she's got cerebral palsy, and the head goes to one side and the eyes go to the other, which of course gets me interested, like, oh, where is the pulling going on? What's the neurological component? How deep are the oxygen levels? Now the mother, she's amazing, because she has done all this amazing birth trauma work with her baby, and she's figured out on her own these ways of touching and working with her baby. And her sister found me and hooked me with her sister, who's the mother of the baby. And
Eleanor, I want to interrupt you there, because Eleanor is a Feldenkrais practitioner and has been helping people online during the shutdown. Normally they come to her home, but now you get the advantage of her helping you online.
Yeah, which is really cool. And I've worked with babies and children for the last 35 years in my practice, but I work with adults too. And so I was teaching her online, and I'm like, this is gonna be, let me figure this out. So we set up our cameras so that she can see me, I can see her. I used my son as an example at one point. I used a stuffed animal as an example in another. And then I get up close and I'm showing her to understand a few basic touches, which is about the circle and a quarter, starting at 6, going all the way around, breathing in to the quarter of a mark, coming down. But the pause that happens, the slight grin in the face, the softness in the face, and taking her through our whole process. I taught Mom how to do this on herself well enough, and she tries to do it with her baby, and she gets success with her. But here's the thing she cleverly did. She taught her massage therapist, because she figured her massage therapist who comes to her home has a really special touch. So she taught it to her. Then
she taught the TTouch you're talking about.
Oh, the TTouch,
right.
TTouch, absolutely, absolutely. And she learned about the Python lifts. She learned about the circle and a quarter. She was learning all of this. Then and big on the heart hug, and then really with the connecting all the way, the thumb, the softness in the hands, moving the tissue, a circle and a quarter. She taught it to her massage therapist. Mommy laid her baby on top of Mommy's chest and had the massage therapist do the circle and a quarter touches, outlining her limbs, because that's the thing that I teach with oxygen deprivation, is doing the circle and a quarter touches, outlining the limbs, because it's a stimulation of the homunculus, the idea of the image of ourself. And so, which is brilliant, Linda, with massive success with children. Mom said to me, not only did both of the baby's hands become even instead of the fist and curled under, when she got up, the baby could turn and hold herself and her head upright. But that's not all. The side effect was Mom got something she never expected. She felt the circle and a quarter touches through her baby, through to her. And what was the effect was her whole brain quieted down. And she said she loves massage, she loves touch and all of this, but whenever she gets massage, she's still thinking in her head. She's got bright colors going on in her eyes. She's considering, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. She's vivid, a lot of things going on. This, she said, was the first time in her life everything in her eyes were completely quiet, and her whole thinking became completely quiet. Not a thought went through her head. And she said she has never felt this good and calm in her life. And that was the magnificence of the touch from the therapist, who was simply taught it that easily and through the baby, through to her, to make those changes out of those old parts of the brain so that the whole brain gets the blood flow. That's a gift. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor. That is fantastic. I mean, and this quietness, this, when we get in the looping thoughts that can't stop, this 1 1/4 circle, the deep breath into the nose and out through pursed lips brings us to this place of stillness. And it's that stillness that the cranial sacral people describe as that ideal place for healing to take place. It's the place of the activation of the parasympathetic, or cranial sacral, the Heart Math Institute people teach us, it puts you in the place of heart coherence. And that's what we can get with this 1 1/4 circles. Thank you so much. Marianne, I think we should just stop the recording, and then, so we'll end this recording, which was, it's an hour and a half instead of an hour, and then we'll start a new one so that people who have questions, we can answer questions. And we have a couple of more really stories that I think can really help you. And Marianne, I'd love you to tell your scar story.